This is a real thing that happened. 5 divers opened the mouth of the pipe and a diving bell. Due to the huge pressure difference, the mouth of the pipe is like a black hole. They were sucked in with their equipment. Luckily, they stopped high up. The sea hadn't filled up completely. There's still some oxygen left to breathe. As the 5 men came to their senses, 2 of the companions had broken bones from the impact. The others had various degrees of abrasions. Faced with a dark pipe filled with the mixture, it's better to fight than to wait for death. This is what one of them said. It gave hope to the desperate atmosphere, and so they endured their injuries. They crawled forward like centipedes. An hour later, Chris realized the water level was rising. To go any further, they'd have to dive. Their diving gear was nowhere to be found. And what's even more frightening, the distance ahead is still unknown, and 2 of their teammates are injured. If you make a mistake in the water, everyone will die with them. Chris decided to dive in alone and said, if he makes it out, he'll get someone to come back for him. If he didn't, he was dead. Chris felt a strong sense of suffocation. He reached the second air chamber. While breathing in the air greedily, he found the tubes filled with seawater. After a short break, Chris took a deep breath and dove underwater. As the oxygen in his lungs is depleted, Chris was in agony. Luckily, his hands suddenly touched something. Upon closer inspection, it was an oxygen tank. Chris's heart fluttered with hope, so he swam forward, but half an hour later, there was still no sign of the end of the pipe. The oxygen was running out. Maybe it was luck. He found another cylinder. Ignoring the smell of the oil mixture, he puts the tube in his mouth. He continues to grope around in the darkness. After another 20 minutes or so, Chris was pleasantly surprised to find. He climbed up the pipe past the bend. He moved upstream with a mixture of anxiety and excitement. Success or failure once again. Soon after Chris managed to surface, he cried out for help with all his strength. 2 hours had passed since they were sucked into the pipe. Colleagues on board realized something was wrong. They went inside the diving bell to look for them. They just happened to find Chris, who was calling for help. Chris immediately informed the situation inside the pipe. He pleaded with the oil company to organize a rescue. Then he fell into a coma. As soon as he opened his eyes in the hospital, the first thing he did was ask for help. He was furious when he heard the answer. The company did send someone to the bottom of the sea, and they did get a response by tapping on the pipe. The pipe is extremely narrow. The only way to do this is to remove the entire pipe. It's impossible to do so unless the entire pipe is removed. But in order to protect the company's interests, the executives decided to abandon the rescue. 5 days later, the oil company announced all 4 victims were killed. A forensic autopsy later found that they persevered until the 4th day. They died in despair. This should have been a shockingly successful rescue case, eventually turned into a tragedy due to profit. The sole survivor took the company to court, but the case has been pending. The court date was pushed back to January of 2025.